Okay, so we're looking at the analysis of data. And first off, we're going to try to calculate the mean. Because remember that what that is one of the objective of this SBA, right? Let's go back to the introduction here, right? The following objectives were devised to determine the estimated mean, median, and modal height from a group frequency distribution table. So we want to do that first. Also, we want to create a histogram and determine something from that histogram, and also the probability of choosing a student at random. So we're going to set out to look at that in the analysis, right? So we had a presentation of data where we have the histogram, we have this group frequency distribution table that was created here, right, with equal width. And then we have the frequency for each interval, and then we have the histogram, right? We use the boundaries of the upper boundaries basically against the number of students. All right, and of course we start with the lower boundary, but continue with the upper boundaries. Then we're gonna look down here for the analysis of data. Now, calculating the estimated mean, what do we do? Well, we use the midpoint. The midpoint here basically is adding the two limits. The lower limit, 149, plus 158, and the answer we get, we divide by 2. We'll do the same for each class interval, and we get these figures. And these frequencies remain the same. So we have 11 students fall in this category of 159 to 158 centimeters in height. 29 students have fallen in this category of 159 to 168. So obviously, more students fall in this category. So the modal, so we call it modal height, the modal class interval will be this class interval here, right? We're analyzing the heights. So we're talking about the heights. So the mean will be heights, the mode will be heights, or the modal class will be heights we're talking about. The median class height will be heights. This is just helping us to determine, the frequencies help us determine those, okay? So the modal class height will be the 159 to 168. Why? Because most students fall in this category. Most students. Now, for the estimated mean, what do we do? Well, after finding the midpoint, we multiply each midpoint by the corresponding frequency. All right, and when we get those answers, so let's go over that. 153.5 multiplied by 11 gives us 1,688.5, as you can see here. The F times X meaning the frequency times the midpoint, because the midpoint we call that X. In other words, each of these midpoints will represent each class interval. Okay, each midpoint represent each class interval. Okay, just like when you're calculating the mean, you multiply a single digit by the number of times it occurs. But we don't have the heights of these 11 persons. We don't have the individual heights of those 11 persons here. So we just say, okay, you know what? We're going to use 153.5 to represent their heights. So we're saying each student has a height of 153.5. Each of these 29 students has a height of 163.5. So when we're trying to calculate the mean, now we say 11 times 153.5. We say, let's like say 153.5 plus 153.5 plus 153.5 11 times. Then we say 163.5, 29 times. Do the same for the others. We add up all of that. And how many numbers we have adding up? 56. But rather than adding them repeatedly, we just simply say 153.5 times 11 will give us this figure. 163.5 times 29 will give me this figure. 173.5 times 14 gives me this figure. And 183.5 times 2 will give me this figure. That's why I have the F, the frequency, times the midpoint being the X. So that's what we get here, okay? So the F represents frequency, the X here represents midpoint. Now, what this sigma sign means, this E looking, capitalized E looking sign, it means it's a Greek letter called sigma, and in math we use it to mean summation. So we're adding up all these figures, which is 9,226, and divide by the number of times these numbers occur, which is 56 times, because we have 56 students. And we're saying each student in this category, well, right, so each of these 11 students have a height of 153.5. But we know 153.5 is represented each that range in this. Okay, We said that already, innit? So 9,226 divided by 56 will give us the mean. So each student, we're saying an estimated height of 165 centimeters is what each student have on average. That's their height on average. Okay. Remember, the model class again is a class that you find most of the students in. The class interval you find most students fall into. That's the model class. And the median height though. What's the median though? Median is the middle. So if I were to put these numbers down, like 153.5 11 times, put 163.5 29 times, and so forth, and then find which value is in the middle. Which value will be in the middle? That will be my median. But because I don't have the individual values, I have the class. We're trying to find where does the median occur, which class interval the median occurs. So what we do, we basically say, you know what, what's half of this 56? Half of this 56 is 28, right? And where's the 28th value? Where's the 28th value? The 28th value, look at this. So the first 11 student is in this category, right? The next 12 to 29 student, because this 29 student start from what? From the 12th student right up to the 29th student, isn't it? Remember, the first 11 student is in this category. So the 12th student to the 29th student will be in what? In this category, right? Am I correct? Yeah. Okay, so from the 12th right up to the next 29th student. But are we saying just 29 student only? No. I mean, all the students combined here is 40 students. But what I'm saying is from the 12th student to the 29th student will be where? In this category. Just pause for that. No, we use a cumulative frequency now, right? We have 11 students first off, right? We have 56 students. We have 11. The first 11 students occur in this category. The next 29 students, right? So from the 12th student right up to the 40th student will be in this category, right? Think about it. The first 11 student is in this category. And we have 29 more students. So from the 12th student right up to the 40th student will be in this category. Then the 41st to the 54th student will be in this category. Their height, they will have a height ranging in this category. Then the next two students, which is the 55th student and the 56th student, will be in this category. So if you want to find where would the middle student be, when you find a half, if you arrange a student according to their heights from the lowest height to the highest height, right? The lowest to the highest. I arrange them in order. And that's what the cumulative frequency does, arrange them in order. The middle student will be the middle of 56, right? Which is about 28, right? Where is the 28th student? Well, the 11th student is in this category. The 12th to the 12th to the 40th student is in this category. Now, if the 12th to the 40th student is in the category 159 to 168, then the 28th student must be in this category. But really, because it's a small amount of student, we tend to add 1 to the 56 to the total, right? Because these are 56 students is a very small amount. So we tend to add 1, right? And get 57. And we find half of that, we end up getting 28.5. So what's the position of the 28.5? Again, if this category is from 12th to the 40th, then the 28.5 position, which is really what? The 28.5 position, well, 28.5 position is really the 28th position plus the 29th position divided by 2. The 20 again is the 28th plus 29 divided by 2 give you 20.5. So if we know the 29th position and we know the 28th position, the 29th, 28th position, if we add those two values and divide by 2, we'll get the 28.5 position. So the 28th position will be in this category. The 29th position would also be in the same category. So obviously, the 28.5 position will be in the same category. Okay, so the median is really in this category, 159 to 168. Why is that? Again, because we have 56. So let's say let's add 1 to it, be 57. Find half of it, that's 28.5. Which category that falls in? The 11 student falls in this category, and from the 12th to the 40th fall in this category. So obviously the 28.5 must be in the same category there. And that will be the median. Now let's go down to the next the part. Says from the histogram in figure 3, the number of students with a height greater than or equal to 168.5. If you look at the histogram, right, this is the 168.5, isn't it? And the number of students who have height greater than this will be these students, these 14 students plus these 2 students. So that'll be 16 students altogether who have a height greater than this. Right? What about students who have height less than 168.5? You add 11 plus the 29. Remember, this is a boundary, 168.5. So anything less, you add these 2 figures. Anything greater, you add these 2 figures. All right, 2 figures. All right, anyways, let's go down to the probability. Probability of randomly selecting. This should be just a student. Take out females. That's not supposed to be there because we didn't distinguish between male and female students for this research. So the probability of random selecting a student whose height is 168 centimeters or less. So we're not going to use histogram for that, but let's use this. Right? Look at what we have here. Right? It says the probability of selecting a student who have a height of 168 or less. Right? Which categories do we have a height of 168 or less? These 2 categories here, they're highlighted in yellow. The students who fall in this category are these 2 categories. Have a what? Have a height less than 168, isn't it? 168 or less, I should say. So how many students have a height of 168 or less? We go over here. 11 students plus the 29 student. 11 students plus 29 students give us 40 students in total. And these 40 students have a height of 168 centimeters or less. So for probability of picking a student out of these 56 students at random, what's the probability of picking one student out of these 56 students and getting one of these students? What's the probability of me getting one of these 40 students? That's it. That's what it's saying there. All right. The probability of picking a student out of 56 that fall into these 2 categories here, will be 11 plus 29 divided by 56. And we can simplify this as a fraction, or we can multiply that by 100%. And that's what we have here. 11 plus 29, since these are the students who have a height less than or equal to 1. So it should be 168. Okay, that's another error. It should be 168. There should be 168 there. Right? We made some edits, but we didn't change that. So 168 or less, 11 plus 29 divided by 56. And then we multiply by 100% to get this figure here. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. If you don't understand, let's check another one. What's the probability of me picking a student at random who fall in the category of 169 centimeters or more? So we find out how many students have a height of 169 or more. We basically find how many students we have in this category and this category because they have a height of either 169 or more. And it'll be these 14 plus 2 students, which will be 16 students out of 56 students multiplied by 100%. And that will be the probability of picking one of these students that fall into these 2 categories of 169 or more.